All right, welcome back, everybody. I want to turn now to a new and urgent health alert from the CDC. Doctors warning to be on the lookout for malaria after 5 cases of local transmission were found over the last few months in Florida and Texas. They mark the first instances of people contracting it stateside from locally born cases in 2 decades. Joining us now to talk more about this, MSNBC medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Azar, it's always great to talk to you. Remind us, if you will, first and foremost, of what malaria is and how significant these local transmissions are.
Yeah, absolutely, Yasmin. So malaria is a mosquito-borne illness that can cause, and we're going to talk about symptoms in a little while, that can cause an illness that can resemble flu, for example. I think this serves as a good reminder of just how connected we are as a world, and that people are traveling. The majority of cases, in the U.S. are typically imported. But as we know, our borders are very porous, and they are typically impervious, or not impervious, I should say, to the transmission of these infectious little agents. I think it serves as a good reminder for healthcare providers, Yasmin, that if you're seeing someone who has unexplained fever, aches, that kind of thing, and they're testing negative for flu, you've got to think about malaria. And it also serves as a good reminder for all of us to protect ourselves using mosquito repellent, having screens, reaching out to providers if you're traveling to a malaria endemic area about medications. Just that it's top of mind. I don't think people need to be alarmed in any way, shape, or form, but it's good always to be aware of these things, Yasmin.
So what are the symptoms? And then subsequently, what's the treatment if, in fact, you contract malaria?
Right. So the symptoms, for better or for worse, are kind of indistinguishable from a ton of other bacterial infections and viral infections. So we're talking headache, muscle ache, fevers, night sweat. People can also experience nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal symptoms. Fortunately, the subtype of the mosquito that's transmitting right now is something called P. vivax, which happens to cause a less severe illness. But there are anti-malarials, or I should say anti-infective agents that can be used. And this also from the CDC was to serve as a reminder that hospitals should have on or available the top IV treatment for malaria in case we ever do see a bump in cases. But it absolutely can be treated, and it needs to be treated. It can be a medical emergency if it is not diagnosed and treated appropriately.
This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. Malaria, malaria, malaria. Don't be suspicious, of course, about malaria. Don't be suspicious of the person who's been talking a lot about malaria. And don't be suspicious of the person who has been letting out and creating GMO mosquitoes and releasing them out in Florida. Don't be suspicious, of course, of Billy. You know, Billy, he's got his hand in everything, right? Yeah, he's got his hand in the mosquitoes as well. Must be a coincidence, though. Before I get into the story, I want to remind everyone, please subscribe to my backup channel below. There's a good chance this video gets a strike. So please subscribe now. It is called Eye for an Eye. It's a temporary name, but I need everybody over there. In the event I get a strike, I will not be able to upload. Well, I do have one free strike, but that's coming immediately, probably, which is a warning strike. But then after that, again, what's happened recently is channels have been getting terminated without even getting strikes. I didn't have 3 strikes on my last channel. They just deleted the whole channel. So you never know. So make sure you subscribe now. In the event that does happen, you wake up tomorrow and you forget I even exist. And then months down the line, you're like, oh yeah, whatever happened to that guy? Let me look him up. And you can't find me because, well, they've wiped me off the face of the internet. That's what they continually try to do. So I need your help. Please make sure you subscribe now. So you saw the story about now suddenly, out of nowhere, there's malaria cases being reported. But don't worry, of course, they're coming up with a magic potion for that. I talked about this heavily on the website, about how they're going to bring about a lot of diseases that we've all heard about over time, and we all know, instead of something that they, came up with that people weren't so fearful of because they had never heard it, they're going to bring things like this and polio back. Why? Well, it's a good reason for people to go and get their potions, right? Because remember, it's all about potion. Potion, 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 and getting potion in you. So, of course, some of you may remember, because, of course, now they're deflecting in the mainstream media. Even Newsweek has an article saying the Florida malaria cases are sparking a Bill Gates conspiracy theory. Oh, yeah? Well, being that Bill was the one behind releasing GMO mosquitoes in Florida, well, we all should be suspicious. Take a look. This is from a few years ago, and I did cover it when this occurred. And now, of course, conveniently, because they're doing it year after year, they're just going to pretend like this never happened and this has nothing to do with it because he's releasing good mosquitoes, not ones that'll give you any kind of disease, right?
It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. Genetically engineered mosquitoes created in a lab and released in the wild, part of an experimental effort to halt the spread of disease. And these biohacked bugs could be followed by billions more. Tonight, we're on your side investigating why critics are concerned and why the state is poised to approve even more manufactured mosquitoes.
The common name of Aedes aegypti is the yellow fever mosquito.
They kill more humans than any other creature on Earth, but mosquitoes and the illnesses they spread may have met their match.
Aedes aegypti is the most important global vector of dengue, which is a devastating virus, chikungunya, and Zika virus.
Since 2021, UK-based biotech company Oxitec has released millions of genetically modified male Aedes aegypti mosquitoes in the Florida Keys. And the EPA has approved the release of 2.4 billion more in Monroe County and California under an experimental use permit. The lab-created male bugs carry a self-limiting gene, which is intended to kill biting females before they mature.
It's kind of a just add water scenario.
Chad Huff with the Florida Keys Mosquito Control District says the hope is that males pass the gene to enough females to decimate the population.
The male mosquitoes, they don't bite. They never take a blood meal from a human at all. They survive on nectar. They don't even have the mouth parts that make it able to take blood.
He says technicians take the GMO eggs to the property of willing participants, and Mother Nature does the rest.
We have a waiting list. We have people that want to have them on their property, that they see the merit in this and are excited to be on the cutting edge of a technique that in a few years could be everywhere.
Oxitec says its mosquitoes are safe, and the EPA determined there is no risk to people, animals, or the environment.
They're non-toxic, they're non-allergenic. We have a strong track record of proving these to be effective in Brazil, and we saw some great results in the field in Florida last year as well.
Oxitec says the genetically engineered mosquitoes disappear in the wild within months.
As far as making a super mosquito or crossbreeding, mosquitoes don't do that, and it's basically the chance of that happening is eliminated when it's just a male that is being released.
But the program has some worried.
We are just shocked that they were able to do this.
Ed Russo, president of the Florida Keys Environmental Coalition, has lived in the Keys for more than 20 years. He says his biggest fear is the unintended consequences.
When they release these things, what do you think is going to eat these mosquitoes? Dragonflies and fish, endangered species.
Russo wants the state of Florida to demand independent research, something he says federal regulators have failed to do. Dana Pearls with Friends of the Earth agrees, saying too much information is being kept behind closed doors.
Part of the problem is that although Oxitec has said that there are no risks, Oxitec still hasn't released key data from the Florida trials or even its own data from the labs. In fact, there are still no independent reviews anywhere for this version of the mosquito available for public review. So we are being asked to take Oxitec's word that there are no risks without any proof or data.
In extending the experimental use permit, the EPA says the company has not reported any adverse effects. Huff is watching the research, hopeful the experimental bugs could help fight the spread of deadly disease.
We have a very forward-thinking mosquito control organization that's looking towards the future and saying we're not going to be caught looking. We're going to make sure that we have something available to control this dangerous mosquito, and that's what we're doing.
Now, Oxitec hopes to start releasing more mosquitoes this spring, but it has to wait for the state of Florida to sign off on it. We have reached out to the state to see when that decision will be made. We have not heard back, but it could come any day now. Anthony?
So it's an utter joke. And of course, then on top of it, you have Bill talking about over and over. He has dozens of videos on his YouTube channel where you would think this guy had a mosquito fetish, where he's constantly talking about making mosquitoes, curing mosquito diseases. So he's trying to play the role of, well, I've been trying to fight malaria for all these years, even though I'm sending mosquitoes that are made in a laboratory into Florida and all these other places. But don't worry, I'm telling you that they can't catch these diseases and give them to you. They're good mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes don't practice social distancing. They don't wear masks either. As COVID-19 spreads around the globe, it's important to remember that deadly mosquito-borne diseases like malaria haven't taken a break during this pandemic. Mosquitoes are out there biting every night, infecting millions of people with malaria, a disease that kills a child every other minute of every day. Most of these deaths occur in the poorest countries with very weak health systems. A recent analysis by the WHO found that if malaria prevention and treatment are severely disrupted by the pandemic, the malaria deaths in sub-Saharan Africa will go back to a mortality level that we haven't seen for over 2 decades. So even as COVID-19 emerges as a top priority, we've got to continue essential malaria prevention campaigns. We've got to get the bed nets out there. We have to keep the indoor spraying going. We have to have the medicines available. In some cases, strengthening the health system is exactly what we need for both malaria and COVID. The progress the world has made against malaria is one of the greatest success stories ever. The COVID-19 pandemic only reinforces why eradicating malaria is so essential. As long as this disease exists, it'll burden the most vulnerable communities. Ridding the world of preventable, treatable diseases like malaria will save millions of lives and lead to healthier, more prosperous communities. And they'll be better positioned to confront any new health challenges like COVID-19 in the future.
I mean, are we supposed to believe this stuff? So the CDC said Monday there have been 5 cases of malaria, 4 in Florida, 1 in Texas, and they are acquired within the United States and have been reported in the past 2 months. These cases represent the first time that locally acquired mosquito-borne malaria has occurred nationwide since 2003. And again, it's nothing to do with them literally releasing mosquitoes, probably the most annoying bug you could possibly imagine, right? Nobody likes a mosquito. And I mean, I'm not for killing insects really, or animal, obviously not animals, but I mean, a mosquito, it's like a spider. I mean, nobody wants to get bit by these things, but we're releasing them into the public because they really help everybody out, right? Yeah, no, it makes 0 sense. The CDC said that the 4 Florida cases occurred within close geographic proximity and all have been identified and remain actively surveilled. The same, are they talking about the mosquitoes being surveilled or the people? All right. Anyway, the same response has gone into effect with the lone Texas case. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation does not fund any work involving mosquito release in the United States, a foundation spokesperson told Newsweek. Malaria eradication has been a top priority of our foundation for more than 2 decades, and we remain committed to devoting resources and expertise toward the goal of ending the disease for good. So it's very convenient that Bill has all this stuff out there pre this, talking about eradicating malaria while sending mosquitoes out into the open, GMO-created mosquitoes, right? It's almost like Bill put these out ahead of time so he could use this excuse, right? It's the same thing I've talked about over the years with the Masons and the Shriners, right? Well, if you find out anything involving them and children, well, the first thing they'll say is, no, they actually, haven't you seen the commercials for the Shriners? They support the children's hospital. They do all this stuff for children because they care about them, right? Oh, don't be suspicious, right? Because they do that. Don't look at it the other way and say, well, they probably do that so they have a front and a wall up to protect them from any criticism when people realize what they really do. Oh, same here, right? Oh, Bill's got a wall up here. He's been trying to fight and eradicate malaria, despite the fact that he's creating mosquitoes in a lab and letting them loose in the public and doing every single thing he's got his hand in is something in today's world that is an agenda to destroy humanity. He owns all the farmland. He doesn't want us to eat meat, right? He doesn't want us to drive gas-powered vehicles. He wants us to even drive cars that drive themselves, right? Bill is all about the magic potion. Bill is all about this technology inside of our bodies. Bill is all about blocking the sun. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Bill's all about releasing mosquitoes onto the people. and then conveniently coming out with an answer that they're working on, which is a potion, right? Don't be suspicious. Don't worry. Newsweek has an article out there about Bill and saying that anyone who questions him is wrong. Oh yeah, answer all the other questions that I'm asking you about why Bill is involved in these things, right? And the destruction of humanity. And Bill is just involved in every one, even Jeffrey Epps and all those stories, conveniently, right? And then again, what is another topic Bill's involved in? Well, his father was on the board of Planned Parenthood. Did anybody know that? Yeah, Bill's father, really one of the people behind Planned Parenthood. Boy, must be a coincidence as well. Unbelievable. So, John Byer, an etymologist for over 30 years and a professor at the University of Miami, the School of Medicine department, told Newsweek via phone that he's not fearful of a malaria outbreak in the U.S. The vector well, there doesn't need to be a big outbreak because what they need is the potion in you. So they could tell you that malaria is spreading and they have, just to prevent it, oh, well, go and get your magic potion. They don't even need malaria to be out there. But that's really what it's about. Even though Bill's sending the mosquitoes out there and we're not supposed to be suspicious. So they say the majority of malaria cases diagnosed in the U.S. are imported, usually by people who travel to countries where malaria is an endemic. Between the eradication of malaria in 1970 and cases in Florida in 2003, the CDC reported 11 outbreaks involving 20 cases. So let me get this straight, one Twitter user wrote. Bill Gates has been releasing GMO mosquitoes in Florida and Texas. And now Florida and Texas, for the first time in 20 years, have mosquitoes that give people malaria. Is that right? That is right, my friend. That is right. The tweet was followed by a community note citing the CDC. That's good that it had a community note. For everyone out there, it's like, Elon Musk is, he's really for freedom. Oh, right. And they're putting those blue things underneath videos and underneath tweets that give you the correct answer to debunk misinformation. I mean, what kind of a zombie do you have to be to actually read and believe those things that are under the video instead of going, oh boy, they really want to force feed this down my throat without letting me actually critically think and observe the information in this video. They're immediately telling me what a contrail is. It's water vapor, they say. Right, water vapor that stays in the sky all day. All day. And it forms what we would think are clouds, which aren't. Interesting. Oh, look, something about the new world order. Oh, good. Well, thankfully, Wiki is underneath my video here, and I can read what it is. It's a conspiracy theory, even though the president of the United States said it himself, from George Bush all the way to this clown in office who talked about a liberal world order, which is the same thing, because the liberals are for a new world order, which is a communist world order. So the reference to genetically modified mosquitoes likely harkens back to a clip that went viral in March, purportedly showing a mosquito with a serial number on its body that has been released as part of an experiment funded by Bill and Melinda Gates. Don't be suspicious of that, of course. Mosquitoes with serial numbers. Just don't be suspicious. And it was funded by Bill Gates, but don't connect the two. Because if you connect the two, you're a conspiracy theorist. Bill is releasing friendly mosquitoes out into the open, not ones with malaria. That's naturally occurring. Bill created all of these gender-neutral mosquitoes that are all about equality and equity into the open. They don't bite anyone. They're just here to help our world. What? Yeah, and they believe it. So they say, although that clip was verified as fake by the Associated Press, Gates Foundation, I'm sure it was really fake. All right. Gates Foundation in 2016 did successfully install a gene drive in a malaria-transmitting species of mosquito that renders females of the species sterile. It was part of another multi-million-dollar investment into the foundation's Target Malaria Project. These guys just have fetishes for helping the world, of course. Even though all Bill would need to do would take his billions of dollars that he has, and he literally could just buy food and then go deliver it or build homes and all sorts of things for these people who are dying of starvation in third world countries, or even people in our own country who are addicts on the streets who need to be rehabilitated. Oh no, Bill instead put all of his money into targeting malaria, not into spreading malaria, because malaria was just on the tip of his mind. He was waking up and he's like, we have to target malaria and mosquitoes. We need to do something about it. Right? No, of course that's not true. Bill is sending this out into the world. That's what's happening. So they say that team developed a gene drive in a lab of malaria-transmitting species of mosquito that renders females and species sterile. However, gene-drive mosquitoes have never been used anywhere in the world. Genetically modified mosquitoes cannot bring malaria to the U.S., they claim. Current GMO mosquitoes do not pose a risk. Of course they don't. What are they supposed to tell you? We created GMO mosquitoes that can spread malaria? Well, they probably would end up, what would happen to these people? Just think what would happen to them if they actually admitted to what they do. There would be no more left-right anger towards one another. Well, there still would be because there's just there is a portion of the left that's completely insane. They would support it. They'd be like, they're giving us malaria? That's great. That's so kind of them. I love them. Do they question my gender? No, they don't. Well, then they're great, and I support it, even if they give me malaria, right? But for the most part, people would stop being divided because they'd be like, wait a minute, they're doing what? Wait a minute, they put what in the potion? They're sending diseases out there? They're trying to block the sun from us growing crops and et cetera, all the negatives. Like, oh, well, people will get together. So what do you expect the article to say? Well, we're making GMO mosquitoes that are going to spread viruses all around and kill people and give them malaria, et cetera. I mean, it's almost like people expect them to admit it. What does a liar do? What does a sociopath do? What does a psychopath do? Do they admit it? Do they? Did John Wayne Gacy, did Jeffrey Dahmer, were they like calling the police and saying, hey, I just want you to know that there's a bunch of missing people that have been, I didn't eat them. And they'd be like, who are you? Why are you calling us to tell us you didn't do it? Oh, because I'm just letting you know I didn't do it. Because if I was calling you telling you I did do it, you'd come and arrest me, right? Well, it's the same thing here. They're just telling you, oh, they're not doing that. Oh, what are they doing then? What are they doing? These people have shown that they do not have our best interest in mind. In fact, they want to destroy humanity. They want to take away our food. Bill Gates wants all the farmland. Why? So he could grow an insect farm for us to eat from? How kind of him. The rest of the land goes to China, right? These things are legal? Yeah, they are. Is our government doing anything to stop it? No, they're not. What does that mean? Well, it means it's left up to us. So they say it must be a coincidence. Somebody else posted that from 2003 to 2023, there wasn't one case of malaria spread by mosquitoes, and along comes a company funded by Gates to solve a problem that didn't exist. And suddenly, in the exact places where he releases mosquitoes, there's an outbreak of malaria. Perfectly stated from that person who posted that. I mean, they say they want Ron DeSantis to investigate. I'm sure they'll just do some fake stuff, just like they do in Congress. They're like, we're going to investigate it, but do nothing about it because they're in on it. But if they don't pretend like they're investigating, then people are going to get really angry. So they pretend we're investigating the Bidens, right? We're investigating what they're doing with our land and giving it to China, but we're not doing anything about it, right? But we're trying. We're doing our best as time continues to tick and we head towards the destruction of society, humanity, and especially the United States of America. So don't be suspicious, ladies and gentlemen. If you are, you're a conspiracy theorist. Bill Gates releases mosquitoes out into the world. He's got dozens of videos talking about malaria. Like that person stated, malaria hasn't been an issue since 2003. But Bill's letting you know it's an issue because Bill wants to have a scapegoat saying, what do you mean I'm releasing malaria and mosquitoes out in the open? I've been talking against stopping malaria for years. Oh, right, just like the Masons and the Shriners, right? Same difference. They were talking about protecting, being at children's hospitals. So don't you dare question what's in their teachings or don't question any of them and what they actually believe and do. They're good people, right? That's what philanthropy is here for. That's why I covered it years ago. I mean, another YouTuber covered it years ago. Philanthropy, it's in all of their books to show themselves and present themselves as philanthropists. That way, they can always use that. Oh, but he does good things for society. What do? He donated $1 million to the children's hospital. He donated $1 million to fighting this disease. What do? Mr. End of the Beginning, what do? You don't do anything. These people are doing things to help. Oh, that's because those are all fronts so that you don't ask questions about what they're doing. So they're presented in your mind. You think that they're good, nice people who would never do anything like this. They're psychopaths. And the evidence proves it. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families.